Hi, and welcome to the Flute Talk podcast, where we talk about all things flute, live here on Patreon. What is Patreon? Patreon is a place for fans like you to come and support creators like us. So why not join us over on Patreon and help us continue to make great content? The Flute Talk podcast is also brought to you by the Flute Center of New York. The Flute Center of New York has the world's largest selection of flutes. If you need to buy a flute or piccolo, the Flute Center of New York has you covered. With our code TFC at checkout, you can try up to 3 to 4 flutes for up to 10 days, have an extended 18-month warranty, and free shipping worldwide. So be sure to go to the website flutes4sale.com. So that's flutes4sale.com. flutesforsale.com. Just be sure to use that code TFC for all those perks, and a little bit of that does go our way. Another sponsor is, well, ourselves. We have a store. If you haven't noticed yet, we have a store over at store.theflutechannel.com. We have some shirts and posters and things like that over at Teespring. So you can definitely go there and get some merch, posters, whatever you like that we have. It will be there. You'll probably notice it under our videos. If you're interested, be sure to go to store.theflutechannel.com. That helps us out immensely. So yeah, on with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Flute Talk podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Amelie.
How's it going, Amelie?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, well, a bunch about air and the diaphragm and all those types of things, because this one question came up a couple days ago, and we'll read it now and see what you have to say about that. It's been a good week, though. Hello, everybody in the chat. This is the live show that we do once the last Sunday of every month, and you can leave us questions here throughout the channel, or also here in the comments. We also released the video just 2 days ago or something like that. Yeah, what people want flutists to play. If you haven't seen that video, please go and see it. We get a lot of messages from people this week that they don't see it in their notifications. So be sure to subscribe and do all the things to get the maximum amount of us, so.
Yeah, so you know when we release new stuff.
But it's a really fun video, and we would like to hear from you guys in the comments there too. Also, go and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. In any country that you are, go into Apple Podcasts or follow us on Spotify. That helps us a lot for the show if you're just listening to us post live, so do that too. So yeah, at OS Lotus, she wanted to ask us, and it was on the how to play high notes on the flute video.
Yeah.
And they said, it helped me out so far, but now my teacher doesn't want me to use my diaphragm anymore to reach the higher notes, only my lips and tongue. She said that only the flexibility of the lips, can do the job, not forcing the speed of the air to hit the accurate spot in the embouchure. Can you show us how to do it?
I would not advise to do that with the lips.
Okay.
And
so let's go into that. What do you think? Starting at the beginning, the diaphragm, that's an element in flute playing, I guess.
Yeah, first thing is the diaphragm is a membrane. It's not a muscle. You can't control it.
It's involuntary.
Yeah, you can't move.
Protects your organs, actually. Its sole purpose, really.
Well,
the lower organs, right? Or the upper?
It separates them. It separates the lungs and heart are above it.
Right.
And then you have the diaphragm. That's pretty high. And then under you have the other stuff intestines and everything. And then when you breathe in and your lungs expand, your diaphragm goes down. And instead of being shape of how do you say arc-en-ciel,
Like an arc?
Yeah, like an arc. It becomes an inverted arc, a bit like a U. It pushes...
An inverted arc, yeah. I see.
Pushes those organs down. So you don't move your diaphragm it's not a muscle. So yeah, you move it, but with other muscles around. Yeah,
and the organs are pushing it down too.
Just the lungs.
The lungs. Yeah, organ, yeah.
Expand and
then they push them down, pushes it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
some people don't breathe in enough.
Yeah.
They just breathe here, so just breathe in the chest. So they don't use the diaphragm. The diaphragm is not being used because they don't do that full breathing. So that's
Right.
why we say breathe in your belly and stuff like that. In fact, you're not breathing in your belly, you're breathing in your lungs, but you're really filling up your lungs so that your lungs go down, you know? That's why I understand. I'm not a doctor, but that's why I understand about
Yeah,
breathing.
but even like basic biology, like in school, we kind of are told about the human body and the diaphragm and stuff like that.
Not
So,
that much for me.
oh, for me,
I
yeah,
didn't
we
hear
had
that much
biology.
about
We
it.
talked about the human body a little
I had
bit.
biology, but breathing, we didn't talk about that much. But so that's the first thing. Like, I don't know where it started that music teachers, flute teachers started saying, use your diaphragm and all that stuff.
As soon as
And then it became this false
ideology or
or
idea.
this,
False,
this
I guess.
like this false truth
Yeah.
that everyone was
Adopting.
and teaching onwards. Because the thing with music teaching is that instrumental in particular, a lot of instrument teachers, like piano teachers, flute teachers, they have no degree in education. They don't know pedagogy. They never studied it. A lot of them didn't even read about it. And most people teach the way they were taught without really thinking about it and going back. And as much as you love your old teachers and as much as you owe them a lot, you are allowed to look back and be like, maybe that was not the best way.
Yeah,
and
we're all imperfect,
we can all
it's
make
just,
things a bit better.
and be
you
open.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe my students will one day look at what I taught them and be like, oh, I could make this better by explaining it.
Oh my God. That's like the whole goal, I guess,
Yeah, and it's all good. We're not infallible. But the thing is, there's this mentality that your teacher is this master and you should just pass on this knowledge. And sometimes it's false knowledge, like the diaphragm thing. It's not true, but everyone just says it again and again, and it kind of becomes true through generations of people repeating the mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's the first thing for a diaphragm. But when you're saying, my teacher doesn't want me to use it.
And they only want to use the lips and the tongue.
How can your teacher know that you're using airspeed? It doesn't really show, okay?
Yeah.
Your teacher is probably using airspeed and not noticing it.
Yeah, probably. That's usually the first culprit.
Yeah, and lip flexibility, in my opinion, it's detrimental to think like that. Most people move way too much move their lips way too much between octaves, between registers. By doing that, they lose stability of the embouchure. Usually your best note is the embouchure you should have. When you want to go higher, your lower lip moves a bit forward, a little bit. Like, I don't even think it's a centimeter. It's super tiny. So if you focus a lot on this thing, you're
dealing with a lot of pitch and fluctuations that are pretty crazy too, and also like crack notes can happen more and all those types of things.
Yeah, because you're not stable. You need a stable embouchure. And then he's probably using airspeed and not noticing.
Yeah, because airspeed's like the core thing to tone. Without air, you have nothing.
And some people have a huge talent as an instrumentalist. So maybe that teacher is very talented.
Right.
Never had sound problems, so never had to really
teach how to give people airspeed and how.
Or never had to ask herself or himself, how do I do?
Right, sure.
Maybe he's a natural. Sometimes some very natural players, they don't know what they're doing, but they just had it first try,
Yeah. I've noticed
they don't necessarily make the best teachers.
Yeah. But I've noticed like a lot, and then with this lady's question, is that airspeed is something that everybody kind of struggles with without knowing. And like understanding airspeed, fast speed of air and slow speed of air, like that's just the beginning of that. And then there's a whole entire in between that we don't really kind of forget about, and instead think about like the diaphragm and the lips, and instead of actually just thinking of the core element of speed of air first, and really getting a mastery of speed of air, and then use those other things too. Maybe they'll give you different colors and stuff like that. But
the way you're talking, you're making me think. Like, what makes the sound on a flute?
Right. Yeah.
Air makes the sound. So what's the most important thing?
Air.
And airspeed.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Yeah.
That you don't have air, you don't have a sound. The rest, it's little tweak, you know, but the main thing is air.
Right. Yeah.
And finding a stable embouchure. And then there's slight movements, but it's not big movements. If you move too much, that's when you lose your sound and all that stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I would be careful about, I don't know. Like, there's some teachers who get very intense about their thing, and they're like, you're not allowed to do this. Like, if it works, it works. If it works for you, even if I have a student who has an embouchure that I'm like, but it works, am I really gonna make them change the whole thing? Like, my right hand on the flute is not good visually. You look at it, you're like, but it works.
Yeah, it's not that image of the ball underneath the hand and curvature and all those things that people teach you about. But like, the flute is first not very ergonomical, and our body is not ergonomical to the flute, so we have to adapt.
And we're all a bit different.
Yeah, we're all different.
Like, we have different joints, and just to say, a teacher could have been very, stubborn about me correcting my right hand. But I never had technique problems. I was always able to play fast. You know, how many hours should I invest in something that's not even a problem for me?
And that's not even going to return anything to you. Like,
So if you use airspeed and it sounds good, why would you push that out and then use lips? That doesn't really work. Lips are not muscles that you can control that much. Like, it's not, and it's usually when people try to do it, they do it too much, and then they lose the sound. And then the tongue thing, I really don't get the tongue thing. Using your tongue to change
the tongue is
octaves.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Do you use your tongue when you change octaves?
No. I use airspeed.
I use airspeed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use my tongue without thinking about my tongue, because I use different vowels, and by using different vowels, the tongue placement changes.
Yeah, and
but
maybe affects the speed of this. Maybe affects the speed of the air. Yeah. But that's about like the whole cavity thing inside the internal. Like, it makes air spin around, but remember, it's just the law of physics. You know, like, there's so many of those, and some of them dictate, like, you can't. The more space you have, you need more air in order to keep the speed up. You know what I mean? Like, if you have more
so maybe
space,
naturally you'll raise your tongue a little bit when you go in the high register to increase the speed. That's a possibility.
Maybe, but like,
I don't really think about that.
I think
it's being done by itself.
Right.
And if you change vowels, like if you go ah more in the low register, ah, and then more like just here ah, my tongue moved.
Yeah, of course.
And just by moving your lower lip and the jaw, like, your tongue also moves with it. So you change the size of the opening in the mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I've been talking about the tongue with some students sometimes when I feel like their tongue is a bit too high and it kind of obstructing the airflow.
Right.
So, like, maybe keep it a little bit more down in the mouth. But I've never heard any of my teachers talk too much about the tongue, except for that. Like, don't leave it in the way so that the air can go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, if things work for you, I don't know. I don't like those dogmas and I don't understand at all. Is it really a flute teacher, the person talking about airspeed, or is it someone who plays? I don't know.
Yeah, and like, at the last of her bit of a question was like, not forcing the speed of the air to hit the accurate spot in the embouchure. Could you show us how to do it too? Like, the accurate spot, like speed of air. Like, what is the bad thing you're hearing when somebody hits it accurately with the right amount of air? You know what I mean? Like, what is the thing what's disturbing you? Like, is it air in the sound? Because in reality, 20 meters away, you don't hear the air in the sound. You know, like, if you hear, like, I heard like Galway very close up and other flutists very close up, you can hear air in their sound.
Yeah.
You know, in the hall, when you hear them that afternoon or that evening playing a show, and you're in the middle of the hall, you don't hear that air.
No.
Because it's gone. Physics,
it's
projection, and it spreads, and your ear will not get to it. It will not get to your ear. But the tone will get to your ear faster.
Yeah, and you're not forcing. Maybe also you and your teacher don't understand each other because of the choice of words.
Right.
Sometimes that happens because increasing the airspeed doesn't mean forcing the air in a spot. It's just increasing airspeed. You're not forcing anything, you know? I don't know. Like,
There's no accurate spot in the embouchure. Maybe you mean the embouchure of the head joint, like that. You know what I mean? Because like the embouchure plate and the embouchure are two different things.
Yeah, like the embouchure plate, of course, there's a spot that's like a sweet spot, I would say.
Yeah, but there's many sweet spots on an embouchure.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
then you can find
for different ranges too, and like
yeah.
so yeah. Well, hopefully that answers that question a little bit, but go in a little bit more depth with us, and
I feel we have to be careful when sometimes teachers, music teachers, like instrumental, have this idea of what it should look like and what it should be, because it feels to me a bit like as if I was telling someone, you're running your marathon very well.
Right.
But now I don't like your style of running. I'm going to tie your legs together and you still have to run the marathon.
Okay,
it's
sure.
There's nothing, it's working. Why do you make it more complicated?
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly. Well, Samuel, he wanted to add to that was like maybe instead of using the word diaphragm in the flute world, they can use abdominal intercostal muscles to provide support.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because those are separately. Yeah, exactly. And like, it does give you that extra boost. I wouldn't say it's like 50%, but I would say it does give you extra boost to your speed of air and stuff like that. But there are devices and stuff that help with the visualization of your speed of air beyond the flute, like the ball inside the tube that spins.
But you can also just
all
do
those
it
things.
on your hand.
You can do it on your hand. There's so many different things that you can do to figure it out.
But I like the idea of intercostal.
Yeah, intercostal.
Because when you start using that, it's like, because I've been for years told that only use my belly and I never had enough air, and then I started using my
thoracic?
My rib cage,
rib cage,
and opening. But also it helps with, sometimes some students, they have this tendency of letting all the air out at once. But by using the intercostal muscles, you have more control also of the speed of air at which you're releasing, so you don't lose it all in the first 5 seconds.
And hopefully that's a big topic. Let us know in the comments underneath the video, or if you're listening to the show, go to the video and leave your thoughts and comments about that, because it's a really big issue for a lot of people, and we like talking about it because it's good to clear it up and give people extra information that can help them for sure.
And thanks to Odyssey of Ascension for the...
You did it right away. It gave us $100 in the super chat, and you can do that during the live show. You can come and join us on the live show and help us out even more. That helps us out directly and helps us make more content, all those things, and it's super, super helpful. What else do we got here? We got a couple questions, which is great in the chat always. ASMR Visual Slime. I love these names. I have a question for my flute. How do I make my breathing not so heavy when playing the flute? I mean sound. A heavy flute sound.
No, I guess it's more like probably when the person breathes in, there's
maybe it's like that.
Thing.
Oh, yeah.
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 So open your throat.
Yeah.
If I understood the question correctly, you're making too much of a noise when you breathe in. So just open your throat and go.
Yeah, practice it. See if you can lessen it, I guess.
But what I noticed for myself is that when I try to breathe too fast, when I'm nervous and I want to breathe fast.
Oh, yeah.
My throat is closed and then it goes, you hear it.
Good. Yeah,
but if I think slow, it's faster, in fact, because my throat stays open. So, and also I tend to make space. So I would push my belly out and sometimes make space in my back between my shoulder blades, and my rib cage as well. I make space and the air comes in faster. It's like, instead of thinking of pulling air in, you just think of making space and then it fills it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you do that?
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Same thing. Pretty much. It's but like I haven't had too much problems with loudness of breathing for a long time, but just comes with relaxing and not even not overthinking it too much for myself, because it's just like then you start focusing on it.
Did you have a lot of air problems when you were learning? Like, did you feel a lot out of breath or?
No, not so much. Maybe when I was a kid, obviously, but later on, no.
Yeah,
like,
for me, it took me a while.
Yeah,
I don't
different
know
techniques,
if,
I guess.
Also different size.
Yep.
Like if you're.
I knew a lot of people that had different
tinier,
problems.
maybe you have to use a little bit more of your lung capacity than if you're
It's different for everyone. So that's why, like, I couldn't really say just do as I do. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't work that way. Like, everybody's just a little bit different than
Yeah,
than
yeah,
each
and
other.
a lot of it is visualization, and our
100%.
visualizations don't always work for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, so hopefully that answers your question. Aditi Bat M wants to know, I can't get the perfect sound on C sharp. What do I do? That's everyone.
Which C sharp?
Probably the C sharp with no hole and no
The second octave one
second
that's
octave.
too high.
And even the middle and high are both, all C sharps are always a bit tough.
Yeah.
Except for low C sharp. Like the lower C
Yeah.
sharp's the easiest C sharp in the world. But
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
then
like, then it starts getting
the
wonky.
second one,
Ugh.
you have to lower it, and also I use my nose a little bit because it has no timbre. It's like you know, it's empty.
Yeah.
So you give it a bit of in it. It helps, and you lower it.
Yeah.
But then the second one is too low.
Low.
You have to raise it
yeah,
a
for
little
most,
bit.
yeah.
For most
Yeah,
flutes.
practice with a tuner for a long time, and then that way you build up that ear of in between all the notes, and try intervals. Try, like, you know, from one note to C sharp, from another note to C sharp, to another note C sharp, and then above it down, and above it down, so you can hear those intervals, because it's so out of whack that its core relationship with all the other notes, each one is almost different to each other. So you have to kind of just develop that, and then it goes away.
Yeah, plus like maybe when you do your sound exercise, it's like just long tones.
Yeah, long tone. Yeah.
Put a tuner.
Yeah, tuner. Tuners are your best friend.
Because long tones, you don't really need to read it. It's
Right.
like semitones one after the other. So you can look at your tuner, and you'll know which notes have which tendencies, and you'll learn a lot about your flute and how to.
And there's a great tuner app on Android and stuff like that. I forget what it's called, but we just started following them. I'll have to leave that in the description, but it's a great. It's like an orange icon with a tuning fork and stuff. It's amazing. That's the only tuner you need. Tuners are not a magical device. You can make it out of a phone. Like a phone microphone can do it.
You don't need to buy all
It's
those
accurate.
machines.
It's accurate. You don't need a strobometer or any of those types of things. This does the core of what you need to do. So
yeah, and don't get too intense about it. Like it doesn't need to be
5
exactly
minutes.
in the
No,
middle all the time. Like it can be a little
relative.
Yeah,
And
like-
also to your own ear and taste, and like what is accurate and what's nice, you know.
Yeah. And if you don't know how to change the pitch on your flute, we have a video about how to
Yes,
play
we
in tune
do.
with your flute. So
It's a great video. It's one of our it's viewed a bit, but it's a great video.
it's
Go
not
watch
seen
it.
that much.
No, but
yeah.
it's very, very good. And whenever people watch it, like, wow, I wish I saw
Because
this one.
sometimes people take a tuner, but they're like, yeah, but how do I lower
Yeah.
the pitch?
Yeah,
How do I
lower
make
the
it higher?
pitch?
How do
Yeah.
So you go and see that video, and you'll see how to play with the pitch on your flute.
Yeah, exactly. He says, though, he presses hard and it works for him. But maybe that's not related to the question. But it is for the question, for the
If you
C-sharp
have to
question.
press hard,
Yeah.
then it's probably the low C sharp, and it's probably that you need an
Yeah,
adjustment. On your
because there
flute.
might be a leak. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you shouldn't, pressing on the flute, there's a whole world of different types of philosophies. Like some people think ultra light touch, and then some people think of very heavy touch, and then some in between. You know, I'm more of the core element of in between and a little hard, but like that's just because my muscles are a bit more tense on fingerings. But I've known people who play ultralight on ultralight mechanism.
I
and
like it
it's
light.
Yeah, but I know people who have an even lighter mechanism than on your flute, and it's intense for me. I can't even, my technique just doesn't work.
Because you don't get the spring.
Yeah, the spring back, the reflex that I'm used to
Yeah.
on my flute. So there's different ways. So again, just if it's because
But
you're
it
pressing
might
hard,
be a leak.
it probably is
Or
a
it
leak.
might be that you want it a bit harder or a bit
Yeah,
lighter. You
yeah.
should check with the technician.
Yeah, but that's just to jump on another tangent about finger mechanism and touch and stuff. But that, like you said, if it's pressing too hard, it means you're pressing the pad down too much so that it seals fine. But then you'll have unevenness in the pad because the pad is everything's tempered very evenly on the flute when you get it repaired or get it brand new, so that when you press it down, that with the minimal amount of tension, that's how it's supposed to seal. You know what I mean? So yeah, and it's an easy fix usually for repair technicians. Not going to cost you a fortune usually. Hopefully that answered your question. Carrie's in the chat, Victor's in the chat, Manuel, all these people. Patty
Wow.
says hello, Pierre, all these
Hi,
wonderful
everyone.
people. It's great to see everybody here. Let's see. There are more questions. Trouble breathing in longer. Oh yeah, that's always a thing. 8 seconds. That's good. You breathe in, but like if you're trying to play a piece, you can't breathe in for 8 seconds and then play the phrase because there's music going on.
Is it breathing in for 8 seconds or out for 8 seconds?
Is there a way I can do longer than 8 seconds? Maybe it's long. Maybe it's out. Yeah. Maybe it's out.
Yeah, like I was saying before, if you breathe in and you release all the air at once, sometimes some people breathe in properly, but they don't pace themselves breathing out. They go, but you can use the muscles around your ribs to keep it from going all at once. Or maybe you're breathing too high, and when you breathe high, you don't have muscles in your chest to control the speed at which you're blowing out. So, using your intercostal muscles, using your abdominal muscles that are just here in front where your rib cage comes together. This here, if you say the sound put your hand on your belly. Those muscles, they're used a lot on the flute.
Right. Where again? There? Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Like I put my finger and it goes out. Those ones, they push, but you can also use everything so that it doesn't go out all at once. But we have a video about breathing exercises that's pretty recent. That's interesting about it. And we have an older video about breathing that's pretty good too.
Right.
But the exercises might be something you want to look at.
Would air, again, when you're starting the flute, you're learning a new way to breathe, because our regular way of breathing, which is also involuntary and voluntary, is not applicable to the flute. It's a new type of way of breathing, like breathing in and then keeping the air in. Our body's like, what the heck's going on? We get all these, but you have to train your body like, oh no, this is a normal feeling. We're going to get all the air out. You're going to get air in again for your blood. It's just you're trying to do something else. So don't feel too discouraged that you didn't get 8 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 1 second. Just train your body slowly every day, a few minutes.
It takes time.
And it takes time. It really does. It doesn't mean you can't do it. People get discouraged right away. No, it's really a thing you have to learn.
It took me years, you know?
So those tips are very, very valuable.
And like you said, when we breathe in normal life, it's more equal.
Yeah.
Breathe in and out are equal.
That's
when you play flute or any
instrument, any instrument that requires air,
you have to breathe in fast and breathe out super slowly. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
But what you said was interesting about breathing in and keeping the air. There's an exercise that I used to do a lot at one point, and it helped so much. Just breathe in and hold it in for at least 20 seconds. And when you're not used to it, your heart goes boom, boom, boom.
Starts pumping like crazy.
What are you doing?
Yeah, this is no good.
It's knocking at your heart knocks at the door. Like, hey, man, breathe out and breathe in again.
Deep sea divers learn that way too, and they get that sensation right away. And that's same thing.
And I would do that while waiting for the bus, washing the dishes, anything,
Realize your body's like, oh, I can still function with all the oxygen still in my body.
Yeah, and that helped so much with that training of the body for the air. For the element, for the flute,
So hopefully those answer your questions. I know there was another question Haley wanted to know about running out of breath easily, but those things help. Those types of training, a few minutes, not even a minute or two a day. You can just do it once a day, that thing, hold it in once. Your body will start remembering the things that it did the day before, and it's going to start adapting. And then you add a couple more seconds if you want.
And then there's the other exercises that are pretty interesting too, like breathe in 2 seconds, breathe out 3, breathe in 2, breathe out 6. You can do that with your flute, but go on our videos and there's a lot of different exercises.
Totally. Patty has a great question here. She just started a few months ago, and I find myself pressing down really hard without realizing, so much that it cramps my hands. Any tips on relaxing my fingers? Oh yeah, that's a great question.
Sometimes, because the flute rocks to the back, because the rods are heavy and make the flute rock to the back. Some people don't know where to put their thumb on the right hand. Yeah. The flute is not very stable, and then you cramp because you're scared that it's gonna fall. So
and there's 3 points of contact on the flute to keep it stable, so that way your main fingers that are doing all the movements are able to be free of tension, or at least as much tension, relievement of as much tension as possible. And that's the the inside finger here, like there.
Yeah, the index finger
of the left hand.
hand.
And then you got your lips, obviously,
Yeah,
holding the
chin
head
here.
joint, where it's holding the head joint, and then your thumb
Of the right hand.
of the right hand. Sorry, because it's also an
For
audio
people
medium. Yeah, for
listening.
people listening. And that, like you said, that thumb is the one that really can move the most. It has the most movability. The other two are kind of stuck in where they are.
But still, sometimes people put their left hand index too much on
Too
the
much.
left.
Yes, that's right.
Instead of really under the key.
Yeah.
And then that plays a big role too.
But that changed my whole technique at an early age, was those 3 points of contact and making them even between each other. Because if you put too much on one or the other, or on just on one, you're going to start developing tension, not in just that one hand where the most tension is, but all the other parts too. If you have equal, at least it distributes evenly across the whole board. At least that's my theory and how I feel about it. And then my fingers can be more free.
Yeah, like a good test is to hold your flute with those 3 points and all the other fingers up.
Up, yeah.
And
have a pillow underneath you just in case you don't want it to fall.
And if it holds well, and then it means that your fingers that are used to play are not used to hold the flute.
Yeah.
If there's a problem with that too, like a thumb port can be a very good idea.
Yeah, it can tell you where your thumb can be comfortably. It doesn't mean that's the right spot. Just it's about what's good for you.
Well, it also helps with the rocking of the flute.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
it keeps it from rocking back. So
There's
that
that
might
fourth
help
element. Yeah,
with
you're so
that.
right.
With that, and then even some people use a bebop for the left hand.
Yeah,
I have a student who
some
started
people use
using
gels
it.
too in the left hand too, like gels.
So there's little things you can put on your flute that might help with that, and there's no shame in using something that helps you.
Oh
that
yeah,
makes
we're
it
a big
easier.
proponent of that. Like we love that. We're even going to maybe work with a maker in Europe who builds head joints that are angled in different ways so that your hands don't have to be up, like a winged bird or stuff like that, so that your hands are really in the most relaxed position, so you can really use all your energy and not get tension in your shoulders, in your back, in your fingers.
Yeah.
Wrists, and
the important thing is, do you have pleasure? Does it sound good? And don't get hurt.
Yeah, don't get hurt. Exactly.
It's not about getting hurt or anything like that. But thumb port maybe, a bebop, and check our videos about posture. We have one old one that's pretty good and in depth about posture.
Yeah. Thumb ports are hard to find when you type thumb port, but if you type thumb port by Solexa with an X, so Solexa, you'll find it.
And we don't get money from that.
We don't get money from that, but we get what we get is you guys being healthy when you play your flute.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want people I always get heartbroken when I get messages from people saying they have pain everywhere and because of the playing and stuff like that. It's just like there's so many ways that we can help, so it's good that like that.
But I remember as a beginner, my hands would cramp up too.
Yeah.
I was so I didn't want it to fall, you know?
Yeah.
But at one point you get to relax, you're like, oh, it's not going to fall, you know? You get more.
Yeah. And the flute again is not a very ergonomic device, and also like the way it's built, the rods fall back, all those things. It's not like a clarinet and everything when all the keys are in the front and on the back, and
you have a little thing for
your thing. You have a thumb rest. You also have a clip so you can put it around your neck too. Like those things we just don't have available, and like when you play a bamboo flute, it's perfectly even. When you play flutes that are not built uneven, you're like, oh wow, this is how it should be done. Whenever I play whistles or play anything like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have none of those problems with rock straw and all those types of things. So it's so.
But it's so beautiful.
But I know. But I think there can be more development in engineering the instrument
and you've
better.
Been researching a bit about that.
Like I said, a bunch of people.
3D printer, and you're trying to make little
ergonomic device and key extensions and stuff like that, so that people can just make them themselves. But
eventually, maybe we'll have it on Music on our website,
like blueprints and stuff like that, so people can print it themselves. Like we can sell the blueprints and also sell the device too. Maybe we'll see.
Not everyone wants to have a 3D printer in their house.
No, but you never know. There's even little tiny ones. So we still have about 15 minutes until the show's over. So we still have a couple more questions. Bear with us here I just saw a couple of really good ones. I don't know much about flutes. I play the French horn, but when playing my horn, you're supposed to take quick, full breaths. Is it the same for flute? Quick but full. Yeah. That's eventually the end result with breathing, right? With optimal breathing for flute playing. When you see flute players in videos, they breathe in which looks like a millisecond, and then they can play for 30 seconds, you know? It's really about getting that quick and then realizing you're really full because your lungs are so efficient. They're just like meant to do one thing good, and that's fill up. And it fills up like nothing because of pressure, everything, the world, it just goes right in. It doesn't feel like a lot of air is going in, but there is a tremendous amount of air going inside your lungs.
Oh, yeah.
So, eventually that's the end result.
Yeah.
Yep, totally. Great.
But like I said before, if you think fast, if you get too intense about I have to do it fast, sometimes the throat tends to
that's right.
close. So
gotta close that.
Even if you think slow, it's gonna be fast. You know, if you make space, it's gonna be very fast.
Totally.
Or you can think of yawning. For me, it never really worked, but some people use that. You know, thinking of yawning.
Yeah.
To open the throat.
Exactly. Victor wants to know: have we ever used breathing exercise equipment? I have in the past. Like the bag and also the medical, when you go to, if you ever have been in the hospital, they give you this breathing apparatus after surgery and stuff so that they see that your breathing is good so you don't have pneumonia and all those types of things. That device is pretty much the exact same thing as being sold to musicians with a ball and resistance and to blow and breathe in. Mostly I think it can reverse the thing so it can work for both breathing in and blowing out. Then there's the bag, which I've only tried once, so I'm not a big proponent on it, but I know Alexa had one and
yeah, I've known a lot of brass players using it. Tuba players a lot. They use that.
Yeah.
And they loved it. Yeah, and they would get a bigger one and a bigger one to work on their lung capacity. Yeah. I never used it. Yeah. But like instead I did more like breathing exercises and like yoga type of breathing exercises and stuff like that. But you find what works for you.
Right. And just be mindful of your body. Like I knew that I had a spring of thought because I knew somebody in wind ensemble once, and she was a clarinetist, and she was all about breathing and breathing in so much air all the time. And when you saw her playing, you could see physically that she was just blowing up, and she was a tiny person. And eventually in wind ensemble, she fell over and her lung collapsed because because she was so intense about it for a whole year because of one thing or another. And then eventually she had to rebuild her lungs, and do those things. So like,
that's scary.
You got to be really mindful, and like, there's no race. Like, and like, if your sound is not as good as you think it is, or somebody's telling you it's not, like, just relax, man. It's just music, build up. Like, you're at a professional level already. Like, just
or not, and it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter anyway.
But
so be careful.
Yeah, and sometimes we get a bit too crazy because we don't really need to blow out 30 seconds at a time. Most of the time you can find a spot to breathe in the music. That's going to be totally fine. Yeah. And sometimes when you breathe in the music, it's all about assuming it. When you try to hide your breathing too much, sometimes you don't do it as musically, but there's a way to be musical. Find a place and assume it. Because, like, let's say you hear a cellist, they don't go ta 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 ta. They don't just play the whole thing like as if they had a metronome.
Right.
So you can do the same with your flute. And when you play with piano or any other instrument, you can look at what's going on in the other parts. And there's places where you can totally, very easily take a bigger breath and the other musicians know. And then you continue together. Like, it's good to work on your breathing. I'm not saying it's not, but then there's the whole musical part of it that also is as equally important about like where to breathe, how to bring it, how to be confident so that it's it's part of the music and it's not disturbing the music.
Exactly.
Because also like music is life and you need to breathe in life. So it's not it's not shameful to take a breath.
We got a couple high note
or two
problems.
or three.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having a bit of Claire Chen wants to know, and I think Manuela too. I have a bit of trouble hitting high notes. I think it may be my embouchure. Any tips? You want to show a little bit of high stuff or talk about that? Like,
you have trouble hitting high notes.
Yeah.
I didn't see your embouchure, so it's difficult to see. Sometimes people push the lips forward too much. So check that. Make sure you don't push your upper lip forward. Keep your upper lip stable. Just the lower lip can go a bit forward. Find your best note, and that's probably your best embouchure. And keep that pretty stable, and then use airspeed to get higher notes. There's a slight movement of the lower lip going forward, but it's so tiny that I don't focus on that at all. And then the other thing, work on harmonics. Harmonics can help a lot. Like finger a low C and then go and play the high notes that come from that. We have videos about harmonics, about high notes, where I explain all that. And like just write the flute channel harmonics or the flute channel high notes. You'll find a lot of videos. And you play your harmonic and then you remember the feeling in your body when you got that high note, and then just do the real note and blow the same way. And it's going to train you. But look in the mirror when you play and make sure there's not too much movement in your embouchure between octaves, because too much movement means less stability.
Exactly. So we're going to answer 2 more questions, and then we're going to sign off for this month. But just be sure to go and check out our store if you want to buy some of our merch. I know a bunch of people bought the new Mozart Concerto shirt and leggings, and the poster, again, is selling well, the fingering posters. That's pretty cool. Also, be sure to also leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or follow us on Spotify, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find us via that. And also be sure to like this video. And if we haven't answered your question live in the chat this time, or if you have a question and you're listening, be sure to go and revisit this video and leave a comment down below in the video. And that helps us gather up questions for the next live stream, which always helps too. And also, if any of you haven't watched, or if you have watched it, go and rewatch the latest video we just did about what what people want flute players to play. We really, really loved making that video, and we want everyone to see it. So you guys watching it again or watching it for the first time does help getting it out to everybody, and that's always super helpful. Yeah, and also if you're looking for a flute, we have we have a whole playlist with the Flute Center of New York about flutes and piccolos and how to find the right flute or piccolo or any flute instrument for yourself. Go to the Flute Center of New York at flutecenter.com or flutecenterofnewyork.com, either of those two, and leave the code or put in the code TFC at checkout, and you can test out between 3 to 10 instruments, or 3 to 4 instruments for up to 10 days. And that helps us out a lot. Also, you can just email them or call them. They're all flute players there. They have the largest selection of flutes, new flutes, and also a large selection of used flutes as well. So that really helps out a lot. And so if you have any questions about that, let us know. And be sure to, we've already had several people this year use it, and that helps us out tremendously. We do get a cut from that. That goes directly to the channel. And again, that helps super much. That's super helpful. It's the end of it's the early morning. I need my tea. So I saw 2 great questions here. A question a little bit off topic, but regarding the plugs on keys. I can't play well with open keys with the right hand. I have small finger pads probably at the bottom, and slight arthritis. What do you recommend?
Keep the pads in.
Keep the pads in. Yeah. There's no reason. There's also, I think you can also find plugs that are metal, so you can have a more metal feel instead of the plastic feel. The seal is exactly the same, more or less, so don't worry about that. But keep the plugs in. Yeah.
Or sometimes some people just put a plug for their ring finger.
Yes.
Because it's the toughest one.
Yeah.
But really, it doesn't change the sound. And, you know, those can be useful open holes if you want to do specific glissandos in contemporary music. You'll have that very rarely, so I wouldn't stress too much about that.
And like flutes have been plateau for a long time, so it's totally okay. It's really cosmetic in a way, and then we've kind of made a whole entire world of extended techniques out of it. So, you know, it was not pre-built when the flute was made to have that intention. So just keep in mind.
Yeah, I think it started a little bit for marketing.
It is marketing. It was a marketing thing. It was a cosmetic thing because there was things between Paris makers, I guess, and then they wanted to have that edge, so they made it a little bit different so that they could sell it. And
then they said it was higher, blah, blah, but in reality...
no. What else do we got here? I saw a great question here. Okay, and the last question is, Heather Corina wants to know, how do you keep your airstream the same? Consistency with airspeed. Yeah. All those practicing techniques we talked about today.
Yeah, like we talked about the rib cage, but in that case, maybe a thing like you said with the ball would be good, because if you don't get it, you would have the visual.
Yeah, you have the visual,
like
so your brain's like,
the
oh, I
ball
got to change.
stays there
and spins that way.
And spins, so you're like, okay, I have to keep it. So
Yeah.
maybe that would help with that.
Because they really then...
And also listening.
Yep.
Listen to yourself. If you give air pushes, you'll hear it. I have
Yeah.
students who do that sometimes, and I just, did you hear?
Yeah.
Did you hear? You gave an air push, and when they start to hear it, they stop doing it.
Yeah.
They get way more
You're
stable.
so right. That's such a good point.
Because like, if you want to get better, it's all about self-awareness. Because you can't, you know, if you don't feel it, if you don't hear it, you're not going to make it better. Like, the moments where I get the most happy when I teach is when a student's like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm doing that. And then I know that they're going to correct it way more easily, because it's not just trusting me, you know, they have to really experience it. So listen to your sound, and that can help a lot too. Make sure you don't have the whoo, whoo, whoo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. An incentive spirometer. Yeah, an incentive spirometer. That's the
title.
Thank
the
you,
name
Susan.
of
The device. I think you're right. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was on the tip of my tongue.
I never used the bag, but does the bag also work on the? Like, is it just about filling up the bag, or does the bag also teach you the stability, like, of the air? Oh, you're answering, so you don't.
Yeah.
You didn't hear my question.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay. Well. Can I repeat my question?
Yes, please. Of course. Please.
I never use the bag, but does the bag also work on stability, or it's just about filling it up? So
I think it's a filling up thing, but
so
I'm
it's
not
less
sure.
about being stable.
Yes.
It's more about how much you can fill up. But it can also, it has a little bit of resistance, I guess. So it can also work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So hopefully that answered everybody's questions, and hopefully if you have any more questions, please let us know in the comments down below in this video, or go and leave us a voicemail. We like playing some. We played one a while ago, but you can go to anchor.fm, or if you have the Anchor app, that's a podcasting app, you can leave a voicemail to us at anchor.fm/flute if you have a browser, and you can leave us a voicemail, and that always is fun to hear your voice. Sorry, your voice.
Yeah.
And like I said, we do this at the end of the last Sunday of every month. And we're going to have a couple new videos coming out this coming month, as usual. And that's about it. What else is going on? Really, I think that's about it, huh?
Yeah, did you talk about Musigy?
Oh, Musigy, of course. Yeah, we already have. You go to Musigy if you want to see if you want to buy Amelie's 15 beginner flute lessons. If you're a beginner, this is a great starting off point. You can buy the digital version or the physical book.
There's videos with it.
There's video with it,
also,
and
also
audio
I've seen in
files
the
and
comments
stuff.
someone's talking about our poster.
Yeah,
that they love it, so that's cool.
Yeah,
We
that's
have a store.
Yeah, the store. Yeah, we mentioned the store where you can get your Mozart leggings and shirt and mugs and sweaters.
And if you want flute lessons, you can email us too.
You can email us too at info@theflutechannel.com, and we'll try to get you squared away with that too. We offer lesson packages they can do through Skype and stuff like that, and your studio's pretty full, and some people are in the studio, they're in the chat talking too, so that's so cool too. So that's always a great thing.
And like maybe eventually we might do a group thing. That could be cool.
We're
like
working towards that.
Masterclass type of thing with many people, and
interacting,
so
making
we can
a whole
learn
day so
from
we get
each
questions,
other and
make it kind of like a half day thing, so that people we can all feel relaxed together, get a lot of the
get
core
our
things
out and ask questions and get better together.
Cool. So again, and also go and watch the video that we just did a couple of days ago. We really loved making that one, and a lot of people have been loving it. So that's that, and we'll see you guys next month.
Yes.
See you guys.
See you soon. Bye.